Hi there everybody. So in today's video I have this Honda Jazz 2011 and I'm going to be changing the front brake discs and pads. And to do that, the first thing I'm going to do is open the brake fluid reservoir here. So if you get this little cover open and you take it out, you can check your fluid and just check how much fluid you have in there. The reason for that is because we're going to be pushing the little pistons back into the calipers, and when we do that, this fluid comes up. If you have too much fluid in here, that when you push the pistons back, that fluid can overflow. And that's the other reason we remove the little cover here, is because we need to push those pistons back. And if this cover is on, sometimes it can create pressure. Not sometimes, but it creates pressure because that is sort of seal. It creates a seal in there. And when you try to push the piston back, it's very hard because we're not allowing it to flow back up here. And also it can damage your brake master cylinder. So that's why make sure you open the little cap. Even if you leave it sitting on top like that, it should be fine. But so the other thing would be if you have too much fluid here and you think it could overflow, you could siphon some of the fluid out, or maybe put some rags and paper under here. If some fluid overflows, then at least you catch it on the paper. That's because that fluid, if it drops, it will drop everywhere into the engine and here, and it's a bit corrosive. So unless you clean it properly afterwards, it can start creating corrosion, and you give yourself 3 times the job. So just get some paper like that, blue stuff there, maybe a bunch of it, and stuck it under here. So and then you can safely start your the change. I know I'm okay, so I'm gonna get the car up, remove the wheels, and I'm gonna show you how to do one side. The other side will be exactly the same. So let's get going. Okay, so once you check your brake fluid reservoir and opened it, and remove the wheel, then we can start the process of changing the pads and the discs. In this one, I just turned the wheel towards me. So I can have better access to the caliper here. And also, just before I remove the caliper, these little Phillips screws here can be very hard to sometimes they get corroded and they get very tight, not very easy to remove. So on one of my previous videos, which I really struggled with this, I just drilled them out. So I drilled the head, because obviously I'm changing the disc, so it doesn't matter if I damage the disc here, but you just want to be careful, obviously, not to go in too deep so you don't damage the thread inside. So that's the little screw there, which you can drill the head off up to the point of the disc, if that was the case, or you can use heat and then they will come out. But in this case I use another tool. So I use this tool here. You basically put the tool again onto the screw there, and then with a hammer you actually hit it here. And as you hit this with a hammer, this part turns. So it sort of makes sure that this stays in contact with the screw, and as you hit it, it turns. So it really works well. It's undone my two screws, which were really quite tight. So luckily I remember about that before I try to remove this too much with the Phillips screwdriver, because they start getting damaged. And once you have no grip of that Phillips head there, then you have to drill it, and then you have to get new ones. Or you can use, like I said, some people suggest heating them up really hot, and then obviously they come loose. But I haven't got one of those torches to heat this up, so I have to use the old conventional stuff. Anyway, with that said, we can move on to the caliper here. So usually I get my flathead screwdriver, I put it there against the disc, and I push this back, and so that action there will actually push the piston that way, sorry, the caliper that way, and the piston will go in. So then you have your piston ready in place for when refitting. So that's what I normally do. I put it there and turn it that way, but I already done that. So then you need a 12mm socket to undo the bolts. 12mm socket there. Loosen your bolt, and with a 19mm you can hold that bit there, the inner side, because that will rotate as you undo this. And once you undo that, take the little bolts out, and your caliper should come loose. Okay, so we're ready to remove our caliper here. Just gonna take it out, and I just have a hook up here where I'm just gonna hook it there, hang it there. Just don't want to put too much strain on this hose here, so we can leave it there. We then have access to the pads. We have this little like spring type of thing you can take out, and then we have our pads that we can also remove. They might be a little bit stuck, but we can just get them out with a screwdriver, like so. Just note that pad is got that bit, that metal bit there. That metal bit sort of once the pad wears out, it starts touching the disc, and it makes that noise, that squeaking noise that sort of tells you that the pad is worn out. Then we can remove these as well, give them a clean for refitting purposes. I'll just take them out, and we'll give them a brush. Then I have two very soft brushes here. This is very soft, and this also as well. It doesn't pierce my glove, as you can see. And these are good for cleaning these little rubber bits here. You just want to inspect them, make sure they haven't got any holes or anything like that. No water has gone in there, because otherwise if water goes in there, these little pistons inside of here, they seize. It's piston or little pins in there. So I usually just give them a little brush, a bit of a brush with this. Like I said, this is not hard at all, so it doesn't damage the rubber. And this one is a little bit harder, which I use for these areas. This one does not damage the rubber either, but obviously I don't really use it on the rubber. I use a bit more on the metal here. If you get a little bit more stubborn dust, there is another wire brush which is much harder, but you have to be more careful. So for example, I have this one here. This one is really hard, so even if I do it on my finger, it will rip my glove. So if I get a bit too close with this one to this rubber, it could damage it or pierce it, and then we have a problem. But anyway, we have to remove this part in order to get the disc out. So once it's out, I can clean it a little bit easier. So we need to undo these bolts, this one and this one here, which I've already undone. They're not that tight, and I use a power bar to undo those with a is it a 19 mil, I think? No, it's a 17 mil socket I used. So then you can take these ones out and take the top one out. And take that out. So now you can clean it a little bit easier. And before I continue here, these are the brake pads I'm using, Blueprint. That is the part number there. But I would recommend not just using my part number and buying those to fit in your car, because it might not be the same model, engine size or whatever. Sometimes they can differ a little bit in size and whatnot. So make sure you get the correct parts for your car according to your chassis. And also I have the discs here. These are my discs, which I haven't opened yet. So my discs will be in here. Again, it's the part number there. Sorry, but again, make sure you get the correct ones, because yours might be bigger or smaller or whatever. I couldn't really tell because there's no models out there, or it might be that they're all the same. But obviously, if you want to prepare yourself before you do the job and you want to order the correct bits, then go by your chassis or number plate. These usually get wrapped in these bags, and they have a bit of oil in them. So we want to clean that oil before you can rinse the oil after fitting them. It's not a problem. They're just a little bit oily because I think they add oil to keep them from corrosion. So now we can remove our disc as well. If the disc doesn't come out, this one was already a bit loose, but if it doesn't come out, I normally just hit them a bit with the hammer here. I rotate this and hit them until they come loose. So we can then take it out. So there's a bit of grease around there. This isn't too bad. I can actually see the grease. The grease is just gone a little bit hard. So just give it a little bit of a rinse. Just give it a quick clean. Nothing too tragic, because it's not really corrosion there. I mean, there is corrosion, but what I mean is there's no build-up of corrosion. It's quite nicely kept, actually. and then we can put a bit of copper grease around the area. That's it. And these here, these little holes, this one and this one, are the ones that have the little screws. So I'll just put a little bit of copper grease in there as well. Because I'm gonna reuse the screws, and if I don't put a little bit of copper grease, next time those screws will be possibly very hard to remove. So that is all ready. We can start the refitting process. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wire brush this. I'm going to wire brush it, make sure it's nice and clean. Well, you don't have to exaggerate too much, but just if there's any corrosion, just remove it. And again, be careful with the little rubbers there. These bits here, you can remove them if you wanted to. You need to pull the little. So basically, you can pull the rubber back like so, and this would actually come out. You can inspect them that way. You could clean this and put a little bit of grease on it, but this uses a slightly different grease. It uses like a moldy grease for very high temperature. So what I'll do is I'll give it a quick clean. I'll apply some of that moldy grease on it. You can do the same, or you can just make sure they are not stuck or in any way there's no corrosion in there. So just check that out, and then you should be okay, really. So I'll give it a clean and start the refitting process. Okay, so I finished cleaning my caliper carriers here, and I also fitted the little the silver plates ready to go back. I also wire brushed them before refitting them onto there. I also added a little bit of copper grease in the four corners where the pads are going to sit. So that is ready. I did remove the pins in the end, these little pins. You can see they are moving a little bit easier. Clean them and put a bit of grease on them. So like I said, they use a different type of grease, something called moly grease. My grease here is running low and you can't see anything, but anyway, I've also, before adding the grease, I rinse the parts with some of this brake cleaner, which is what I'm using also to clean the discs here. So we can just use a brake cleaner to remove the oil from the disc. And our disc is pretty much ready to go back. So another thing is, don't worry if you don't get to clean all the disc. You can clean it once it's up here as well, so it's not the end of days, because you still have to hold it and whatnot, so it might still get a bit of grease on it. Right, so trying to fit that there. Okay, and we have our little screws. these little screws, they're only little sort of guide screws that hold the disc in place, but I mean they hold it only for the purpose of you removing pads and things. They don't really have any other purpose, because the disc is actually held in by the 4 nuts that go here that hold the wheel. Other cars, if you work on other cars, or you ever change the pads or discs in another car, you might not find these little screws. They're not fitted, and you can see the disc just moves. Right, okay, you can get that in there. And so that's the thing, you don't need to super tight them. Just get them in with your screwdriver, just like that, by hand. No need to do anything else. And now we're ready to fit this as well. In there. So I was checking the torque settings for these, and these are 110 Newton meters. So that is the torque setting suggested for these two. So I'm just gonna go ahead and tighten those now. Okay, I have those two tightened, that one and that one there. As I said, 110 Newton meters is the recommended tightening torque. Then we have our pads. You can fit one pad there, and the other one, if you just refit in the way they come out, so in this case that was in this down, facing down, I'll just push that in there, so that's sitting in there nicely. We won't forget our spring. Kind of goes in there. And then we have the caliper. Now the caliper also, you can also wire brush it in order to get it clean. Just gonna get it out of that hook. Okay, so here's my caliper. I should have really wire brushed this before fitting this, so I don't cause any dust around here. But these are fairly clean. And anyway, if you wire brush this area here, be careful also of that rubber, this rubber that is around this piston. If you do it with a hard wire brush, it will damage that. So that's why I use the soft one usually for these areas here. Just brushing it a little bit, nothing too crazy. I have a little spider there come to say hello. Hopefully it's not gonna get in the way. Come on, spider, go away. Right, so anyway, that's the idea. I'm just gonna hold the caliper here and do it in this area, and then rinse it with some brake cleaner. If you are watching the video to prepare yourself, then wire brush this before fitting this. that will just save you having to clean. But if you were just changing pads, normally you would wire brush these anyway in here. That's just what we do. Right, I'll get that cleaning and then I'll fit it in here. Okay, got my caliper in there. Now we can go ahead and fit the little bolts that hold the caliper in place. So you can get those in there, and it's just a matter of now fitting and tightening these bolts. So the recommended setting for this is 22 Newton meters. So hold the nut here and then you can tighten those. So 22 Newton meters is not a lot of force, so make sure you don't damage this. So I'm gonna go ahead and tighten those, and then we are pretty much done here. Okay, that's it. These are tight. The other two bolts are tight. You might feel this is moving a little bit, and that's because we need to press the brake. That's the first thing we need to do once we finish. So I'm gonna put the wheel back on. I'm going to do the other side, exactly the same procedure, and then lower the car. And the first thing I'm going to do is pump the brake a few times. You will feel the brake goes in all the way the first time you press it after changing your pads. And I'm also just gonna put a little bit of copper grease around these discs, and this is the area where the actual wheel sits, not the disc itself, obviously. Just this bit here. And also I like to put a bit of copper grease around the screws here, so they can, next time whoever does it, it's not going to struggle to take them out. So I'm gonna do the other side, and I'll see you at the brake fluid reservoir area. Okay, I got the car down, wheel is on. I've done the other side, and so like I mentioned, first thing we're gonna just press the brake here, and you may feel it very soft. It will go all the way in, and then press it again and again, and now it's hard again. So now the pads have sort of come out a little bit and have adjusted themselves to the new disc. So now we can check how much brake fluid we have. So I just left the cover there sitting on it. And you can see my brake fluid, it's at the top there. I think we have we just have the max mark here on the side. It's a little bit difficult to see, but the max mark is actually just there. So if you look carefully, that line there in the middle there, it says max. So at the moment my fluid is right at the max, which means I don't really have to top up or do anything with it. However, I will be changing the rear pads on this car, and again I have to push the little pistons back in, so I may have some of this fluid coming up all the way up to the top here, so I may need to siphon some of the fluid out. But as far as this video goes, we haven't had any overflowing of the fluid. So we can just go ahead and close this cover, and we're pretty much done. So I would recommend the first few hundred miles that you drive, just drive carefully. I mean, use the brakes normally, and they should wear into the pad should start wearing into the disc a little bit, and slowly it should have better grip. Not that you will probably won't feel any difference, but just let those discs and pads wear a little bit, where then you're gonna have a much better braking system. So having said that, I hope the video helps. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you on the next video, which might be on the same car, and I'm gonna be doing the rear pads. Thank you for watching.